We are just 4 days away from the early access release of College Football 25, and Dynasty makes its triumphant return. And we are today going to go through 10 things to keep your Dynasty fresh and fun for years to come and seasons to come at that. And these are going to be things that are included in the game and just things to kind of try out as you get into Dynasty based off my experience with NCAA 14 and Dynasty, things I've used to help my Dynasties stay fun, and things that I see in the new game that you can utilize to keep your Dynasty fun and refreshing. The number one thing I'm going to mention here, starting at number 1 through 10, recruit pocket quarterbacks. We all know that one of the most fun things in college football is to run the option. Go ahead and enjoy it. I encourage you to do so. But recruiting pocket quarterbacks is going to look like a lot of fun too, carving up defenses as we saw in the gameplay first look video. And also, the player ratings were just released yesterday, the top 100. I thought it was going to be every single team, but I guess not. I don't know why they did it this way. But anyway, I want to take, for example, the best pocket quarterback in the game, which is Carson Beck out of Georgia. Carson Beck has 74 speed according to his ratings here, according to the top 100 ratings in College Football 25. 74 speed isn't super slow if you think about it. If you think about Carson Beck, he's had 74 rush yards in his entire career. That's across 20 plus games so far in his career, around 20 games in his career. And seeing 74 speed, that's actually not too bad. Like, that's a pocket quarterback for you. You can still move with him, but you can also still carve up defenses from the pocket, play the game from the pocket. That would still give you a kind of a fresh kind of perspective in your dynasty. Build around a pocket quarterback as opposed to an option quarterback. I would say do both, but don't be afraid to recruit those pocket quarterbacks. Number 2 on my list, I have use coordinator playbooks. So based on the route you're going to take as far as going through your dynasty and picking your coach, kind of what he is. So you can start as a motivator. You can start as a tactician. You can also start as, a recruiter. If you choose, I would say the recruiter or maybe even the motivator route. That means that you're not saying you're a bad play caller, but you're not the tactician that, a lot of coaches may be. So that means that you may need to lean on your coordinators a little bit. And just for realism, offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators come with their own scheme. So just to make it fun in your dynasty, you might want to consider playing with the coordinator's playbook that is attached to them. And it's something that will keep your dynasty fresh for years to come, because let's just say, for example, you fire an offensive coordinator, you hire a new one. That new offensive coordinator is going to come with a different playbook than what your old coordinator came with. And that may allow you to open up your team and expose your players to things that they had not even seen before, and also allow you to see depth on your roster that you haven't seen before. Maybe you now see that your number 1 receiver is more of a number 2, or maybe you see that your slot receiver is all of a sudden a superstar, or maybe that freshman or sophomore buried on the bench all of a sudden starts getting in the game, and you're like, I can't believe it. He's been sitting in this other offense and not doing anything, and all of a sudden a change of playbook brings him on the field, and now he's starting to kill it. That just keeps your dynasty fresh, and it allows you to kind of see the entire roster, because obviously you're playing the game. You can manage your roster, but you don't really see it for what it is unless you're kind of going through different playbooks, different schemes, and kind of seeing your strengths and weaknesses. And this is just a way to kind of keep your dynasty fresh. The number 3 thing I have on the list is diversify your backfield. I kind of saw this in the gameplay deep dive where Donovan Edwards kind of subbed himself out, kind of gave another player an opportunity to play who is behind him. And I would say, that's just something that's going to be so fun as far as running backs. You might have, the bruiser type of back, your Donovan Edwards, a guy that's going to play for 3.5 quarters, just absolutely hammer the ball, run for 100+ yards, and then you get to that fourth quarter, those last 5 minutes of the game. sub that guy out, put in your speed back, and he will tire that defense out, stretching the field horizontally and vertically. It's just going to be fun to see just the type of different backs in the game. You can have your speed backs, you can have your power backs. And one thing that I noticed in the top 100 ratings is that I think speed backs are going to be a dime a dozen. The highest speed that I saw as far as the top 100 was Tez Johnson from Oregon with 96 speed. That tells me that maybe they're not going to be a lot of speed guys. So once you find one and you have him, use him. Use him in packages that other players can't play in. It's going to keep your dynasty fresh and fun, and it's going to make those guys a lot more valuable. And doesn't everybody like speed? It's going to be a lot of fun. Number 4, I have play your freshmen even if they're bad. So here's one thing in this game that wasn't in the past games: the red shirt rule. So let me explain this for you. The red shirt rule pretty much means that if a freshman, and I would say even any class, to be honest with you, I think it's not only freshmen, but let's just use freshmen as an example. If a freshman plays in 4 or less games, they will retain their red shirt status. So if you recruit somebody fresh out of high school, you play them in 4 games their freshman season, going into the next season, they'll just be a redshirt freshman. The game will automatically redshirt them. Now, this will help in games such as blowouts, where let's just say you're small UMass and you're playing Ohio State on the road or Michigan on the road and you're getting blown out. It's 49-0 at halftime. What do you have to lose here? Play some of your freshmen that are buried on the bench that you want to get some playing time too, just to see what they can do. Throw them in there, see what they can do, or just throw them in there just to get them some experience. It's not going to hurt as long as you don't play them more than 4 games, and you will get them that experience, and they will still retain that red shirt status. So that's something that you should use in your dynasties and to get, some fresh blood in the game. Number five is kind of more of a offline dynasty thing, and it is don't switch on defense. This is something that I use in my dynasties because I want players to have their own personalities. So for example, when you play online head-to-head, switching on defenses can help because you're playing against another user. You can kind of use your interception and use a new switch stick and do things like that kind of users control over the game, and it kind of affects the outcome. But when you don't switch on defense in an offline dynasty, it allows players to have their own personality. You pretty much don't dictate how the game goes. You let the players dictate how the game goes. Obviously, you have user input, so you can still user one guy, but use them the entire play. Don't switch off. So if you're usering, let's just say, the defensive lineman, and there's a deep ball down the football field, let your cornerback or receiver make a play if you're on offense and let them do the work. I would say, when it comes to offense and they have, the rack catch, the run after catch, the possession catch, I would say you can use that to your advantage. Like, obviously use those controls. But on defense, it's a lot more fun when guys have their own personality. That's when you see who the true superstars are, rather than having you manipulate how the game goes and the outcome. It's just a fresh perspective to have in evaluating your team. Number 6. Play on different volume settings. This is kind of a settings type of, tip, I would say, because let's just say you are lower Old Dominion. I don't know who you are, and you are playing, FCS. Turn off the commentary. Make it seem like you're on the field. Have games sound different and play different. Now, fast forward to maybe, let's just say, the conference championship. Maybe you do now want to hear commentary. Turn on the commentary. You're going to have the team of, I believe, Kirk Herbstreit on the call, and listen to them. Or just remove all commentary, put the stadium volume up, put the player volume up, and make it seem like you're in the stadium. Play with those settings to give you kind of a different experience every time, and kind of find what works for you. Do you like making it feel like you're actually on the football field, or do you like it like you're gonna be watching a broadcast? It's up to you, but how I like to play, I like to feel like I'm on the field and hearing the crowd noise loud. I would like to hear it roaring in my ear instead of the commentary, but obviously depending on the stakes of the game, you can switch that up as you please. Number 7, use gameplay sliders. Like any game, you're going to eventually get good at it and figure it out. You're going to eventually be a really good player in this game. Maybe you won't eventually be a player, who knows? But either way, there's going to be some things in the game which are going to be harder or easier than others. So use gameplay sliders which allow you to not manipulate the game, but at least nerf the game a little bit, or, the opposite. So just balancing out gameplay, playing it to your strengths or your weaknesses, kind of making it harder for yourself, or maybe even making it easier for yourself at times. Make sure to play with sliders. Operation Sports is a good forum to look at for sliders. There are always sliders that people are constantly doing, and kind of some people in the community just like live to make sliders. Like that's like what they love to do. So there's always going to be sliders out there for you to play with and to use in your dynasty. Number 8, this is a feature within College Football 25, which I will use: persuade players to transfer. I highly suggest using this feature. I love it because there's going to be times when you recruit, let's just say 3 quarterbacks at the position. Each one of them maybe could be a starter somewhere, but just not a starter for your team. In real life, let's just say, for example, you get to the off season, you have 3 quarterbacks, and they all decide to stay for some reason in this game. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. Usually players in real life, if there's 2 guys ahead of me and I know I'm a starter, I'm getting out of there. I'm transferring. This is the day and age we play in. So if the game doesn't automatically transfer certain guys, I would say if you are stacked at a position and somebody can be a starter, you want them to get the playing time, persuade them to transfer away so you can see them and follow them throughout their career with a new team. And who knows, you might end up, if it's another quarterback, facing them in a conference championship or in the playoff or something crazy like that. Who knows? It just creates kind of the immersion within this world in Dynasty you're creating, allowing players to transfer away or persuading them to transfer away so that you can see where their career goes instead of being stuck on your depth chart. But obviously players are going to transfer away from your program organically, but sometimes you might have to kind of nudge guys away and allow them to grow on their own. Number 9 on my list, I have conference realigning other teams and yourself. So this kind of goes with, as you build this world within your dynasty, conference realignment will happen. So I would say choose a couple of routes. I would say don't keep it the same. That's the route not to go. But the 2 routes I would say to go is you can do 2 things. You can kind of follow real life. So based on what real life alignment looks like, and kind of see like what the future looks like, you can kind of realign it there. Or what you can do is kind of like revive, older conferences. So like the Pac-12 is obviously depleted. You can reinvigorate the Pac-12, bring it back to life. You can kind of move Nebraska back to the Big 12, create those rivalries again. You can move some of the Big 10 teams back to where they're supposed to be. The ACC teams such as Cal now and Stanford, move them back to the Pac-12. You can kind of make sure that when a team is successful, that they are being promoted. So let's just say Appalachian State keeps winning the Sun Belt year after year. Promote them to the SEC, promote them to the ACC. See what they do there. It's your world, but making sure that you are kind of keeping up with the success of not only your program, but other programs can make it a lot better. And it will also shake up the college football playoff. We have really no idea what Dynasty is going to look like 5 years in, 10 years in, but aligning conferences and making schedules tougher or easier for opponents may allow you to shake up your dynasty and make it as fresh as possible. My number 10 and last thing I suggest to keep your dynasty fun is to watch content creators for ideas. Now, when I say this, you can go anywhere with this. my MO, I'm not really looking for a way to cheese the game. I know a lot of people do that. That's just not me. I go for realism. I want the game to come to life. But I would say for your dynasty, watch other creators who have, these deep dive dynasties, such as me. I'm going to have a dynasty on my channel, shameless plug. Make sure to tune in for my dynasty. I go deep in dynasty. It's not like, those one video dynasties where I do a complete rebuild. That's just not my style. It's going to be a long form dynasty in many episodes where I dive deep. I dissect gameplay, things like that. But there are other creators to follow as well, if that's not your style, or if it is your style, kind of long form dynasty creators, such as I would say Not the Expert NTE. He does those. He's had UGF on NCAA 14. Uncle Sam's Reject, make sure to follow him. He actually has an FCS team in the game that is kind of mirrored as one of his former dynasty teams from NCAA 14. Make sure to check him out. GG9 Octagonal Gaming. If you like the fast rebuilds, Bordeaux is a good one. Obviously, we've seen him in his gameplays. There's so many more that I am forgetting here, but make sure to just go on YouTube, follow some dynasties, get some ideas from them, because we will have some ideas that maybe you can use in yours that you can enjoy in your dynasty to keep your world fun. I mean, it's really going to be a fun experience for everybody, and I'm just excited for the community. It's going to be a good time, and man, I'm just so excited for this game and just to dive in and get my hands on it. I know there are people out there that already have the game and are playing it, and I think there's an embargo that's going to be lifted so that content creators can start releasing gameplay and all the stuff that they're doing. That's going to be happening pretty soon. I heard it's coming up. I don't know what day it is, but I'm assuming it's like sometime this coming weekend. So you should start to see gameplay in the game at a more consistent basis on YouTube. So that's going to do it here for my 10 things to keep your dynasty fun. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you tune in for my series when I start next week. Hit subscribe, hit that like button, stay tuned. Let's get it. Let's go.